We need to have a conversation about this new AEW storyline where the EVPs, the Elite, have completely taken over the company. And quite frankly, I'm super excited about it and I want to talk about it. I think a lot of people need to look at what's happened in the last 2 weeks and come to a realization that AEW has desperately needed a major storyline for the year. They needed their bloodline storyline. They needed their very big storyline to get people back intrigued. And look, ultimately, a lot of people are going to be hit or miss about this, but I love power struggle storylines. I love when people completely take over the company. You know what I don't love? I don't love Jack Perry. I've been very adamant about that. I've never really been a big Jack Perry fan. I feel like AEW completely missed the opportunity or window for him to be successful as Jungle Boy. And look, despite feeling that way, could confidently tell you guys, I am all in on this storyline. Now, it obviously started 2 weeks ago when the EVPs and Jack Perry and Okada attacked Tony Khan. And when they did that, a lot of people had a mixed reaction to it. And I went on TNT with JD from New York, and I specifically said that I love this. I really do. Now, the thing is, as somebody who's not bought into Jack Perry, as someone who genuinely feels like the CM Punk footage is not needed at all to do this storyline, I still love the way the storyline is coming across. Now, a couple things you need to remember. Up until that point, Tony Khan is hardly ever on TV actually being a part of the TV show. So for him to get hit with the Meltzer driver or TK driver or whatever you want to call it, I don't have a problem with that. I see a lot of people are using that as an example to be spewing hatred towards the Angle, but Tony Khan is not being shoved down your throat as an authority figure on TV. And that is very evidently true, right? Like if you look at the evidence, if you watch the product every week, yeah, Tony Khan might show up on the Titantron and make an announcement or something like that. But for the most part, Tony Khan is not on TV. So I didn't have a problem with that. And then I watched this and I see that Tony Khan gets hit with the driver. He goes onto the NFL Network. He's at the draft wearing the brace, all that stuff. Yeah, he's got people talking. Unfortunately, he got a lot of people talking about a dumb comment that he made instead of talking about the storyline itself. But nonetheless, he was selling the Angle, which I appreciate. Keeping kayfabe alive in 2024, I do appreciate that. Then we get to this week on Dynamite, and the way that the show opens with Tony Khan in his office in Jacksonville, and the feed gets cut out because the EVPs are in the production truck. I love this. This is a great way to follow up with that, right? The EVPs, the biggest question that me and JD kind of had was, well, why doesn't Tony Khan just fire them? They come out and express their answer by saying that they have these ironclad contract terms that if Tony Khan isn't there, the EVPs run the show. I like that touch. It's a small little minute touch, but it's a great way to kind of bridge the gap in this storyline. So they completely hijack the feed of the show. And then to make matters worse, the EVPs then air the new AEW Dynamite intro, which is strictly just footage of Jack Perry, the Young Bucks, and Okada. And quite honestly, guys, that's another small little detail that they didn't have to do, but it's a nice one that I'm able to watch. Then I see to really make things fun and to really get people going and to really make people hate them as heels, they attack Kenny Omega. I like it. I think we all knew when Kenny Omega was fired from the Elite that the long-term story was eventually Kenny and Okada. I don't know what Kenny's situation is with his diverticulitis. It's really hard to speculate on that. I don't like speculating on people's health, but he took some bumps and it was a great way to get that part of the story going. So now let me tell you why I actually enjoy this story and why it's important that this story goes down the right way. Well, for one, AEW kind of has struggled in the past year of really connecting the dots with their long-term stories. And obviously, they had a little bit of bad luck, right? If you look at the Devil storyline, it is very obvious that, and I know people don't agree with me, I read the comments, but I actually like the Devil storyline. Was it predictable? Yeah. But guys, if you watch my content, I freaking liked Retribution. You know what I'm saying? I don't need the craziest stuff. I just want something that keeps me watching every single week that feels like a big deal. And obviously, with MJF and Adam Cole and the Samoa Joe twist, I enjoyed that aspect of it all. Obviously, MJF and Adam Cole got injured. That completely ruined whatever was next, right? I'm looking at AEW and I'm like, man, they just need a massive storyline. They need a massive, massive storyline. This feels like a big deal. They're putting a lot of attention to detail in this particular storyline. I understand not everybody's into these types of storylines, but when I look at AEW and they're going and putting in little detail in this, I appreciate that. I appreciate that the Young Bucks did an EVP trigger, right? They did the TK driver to Tony Khan. Now they did the EVP trigger to Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega obviously can't be on TV every single week. These guys are doing a weekly takeover of the show. But then there was another detail that I think a lot of people are arguing about, but like, we got to talk about logic, right? The Young Bucks have Christian Cage going after Swerve for Double or Nothing. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this, and a lot of people are going to be like, well, that's not logical, and that's not part of the power rankings. Guys, that's the point of this. That's the point of the Young Bucks doing EVPs. When they say they want to change the world, when they say that they want to restore the feeling, when they say that they want to get AEW back on track, you know, because of what Tony Khan has created has gone down the shitter and they're trying to change it. This is them using their power on TV, basically saying, F the rankings, F what the fans want, F this, F that. We're just going to do whatever because we're in control now. You also got to remember that there is history between Christian Cage and Swerve. Now, listen, losing the TNT Championship and returning and getting the World Championship isn't ideal, but in storyline context, this actually does make sense. So I'm looking at this storyline as a big FU to everything that Tony Khan says or Tony Khan does. And I think ultimately this is a very predictable storyline. I think it goes to blood and guts. I think we do get Kenny and Okada. I think we get FTR and Young Bucks again. But ultimately what this is going to lead to, because we're not dumb, it doesn't take a second grader or a first grader to understand this. It's going to ultimately end with the baby faces saving AEW for Tony Khan and all of them celebrating in the ring. Now, how we get there is important. And if you rush this, you will fail. But if you let it marinate, as I've said, on TNT with JD, you got to let your storylines marinate. Put them on the grill. Don't take them off the grill prematurely. My point that I'm trying to make is if they do this the right way every single week, small details every single week, this will be a massive success for the company. Now, I saw something about Dave Meltzer saying that, you know, AEW perception-wise just isn't cool compared to WWE. It was something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he was talking about how it's difficult for the company that is not being looked at as cool to have a major storyline. And I could actually kind of understand that perspective. But you know what ultimately makes you cool again? You know what ultimately gets people back on track to watch your product? When you do stuff like this. If you are losing this perception war to WWE, it's actually more important that you continue to focus on your product to get to the point where people are like, hey, I got to give this a chance now. Then they do. And then the next week, the follow-up and the consistency is so good where people are like, I'm not leaving, right? It takes time for that to happen, but this is a good start. So, yeah, I'm pretty geeked about it.